So the Tony Hawk's Pro Skater series is a series we have all loved and enjoyed. But outside of the extreme sport of skating that those games have to offer, they have by far some of the best soundtracks ever offered in any video game out there. So while playing one night, I came up with an idea to ask a few of my friends on YouTube. Which Tony Hawk game had the best soundtrack and why? Also, did it inspire any of your music tastes today? So I reached out to a few different people, first being Dan and Ryan from Rebel Gaming Club, Tyler from the Retro Canadian, and Sean from RGT85. I asked them all the same question and actually got a bunch of different answers. Let's see what we all have to say.
Rebel Gaming Club. We've been asked by Brian over at the Co-op Collector.
Our boy.
He asked us, Rebel Gaming Club, what's the best Tony Hawk Pro Skater soundtrack?
We're here to tell you.
If we had to pick a soundtrack, you could pretty much say all the soundtracks are very good.
I mean, one's alright, you know, it's got a couple.
One's alright.
It's got a couple good songs on there. Two's alright as well.
2's probably my favorite game.
Yeah.
But it's not the best soundtrack.
It's not.
Number 3.
Though.
A lot of good bands on that one.
Yeah, you can tell they had a little more of a budget on this one.
But what we're going to talk about is Tony Hawk Pro Skater 4.
It's where it gets real.
That soundtrack for me is... It is punk rock. It is skateboarding. With bands like AC/DC, you know, that's like...
Come on.
I mean, TNT, perfect song to skate to. And you had other bands on there like Toy Dolls, you had Gang Starr, you had skate legends like The Faction, JFA, the US Bombs.
Come on.
And then you had other classics like Sex Pistols.
Public Enemy.
Public Enemy, you can't go wrong with them.
NWA. Come on.
Come on. And the thing is, guys, I was already playing music in a punk band on a label, touring and all that stuff. By 1999, I was doing that stuff. So a lot of these bands that were on here were bands that I had played with or had been friends with. Like bands like the Distillers. We shared the same stage as the Distillers. Bouncing Souls, we had crossed paths many a time. Zeke, another band, you know, the drummer was a good friend of ours. Yeah, the soundtrack's awesome.
It's a great soundtrack.
So, if we had to sum it up, Tony
Hawk 4, it's the way to go.
So how's it going, everybody? The Retro Canadian here, back with another video. And today we're going over the question, which Tony Hawk game had the best soundtrack? And to me, it's a no question. Growing up in the early 2000s, I watched my older brother play this game. It's my favorite in the series, and that is Tony Hawk's Underground. So my brother first got a copy of this, and you know, I was pretty young at the time. I'm a lot younger than most people in the gaming community, but forget about that. With that being said, my brother got a copy of this game, and I remember watching him play it and hearing all these artists that I would go and listen to afterward, artists like Queens of the Stone Age, Rise Against was in here. You know, there's a lot of punk rock tracks as well. You know, so I heard those, and at the time I didn't really know what bands they were, but I mean, later on playing this game, I seen the arrangement of music, and it's a great arrangement. It's not only rock, there's punk rock, you know, classic rock, there's hip-hop as well. Nas and Jurassic 5 are featured in this game, two really prominent hip-hop artists at the time, but you know, it's more emphasis on the punk rock part of this game. Afterward, I went in, and you know, later on playing this game when I was like 9, 10 years old, and hearing all those punk rock tracks, you know, newer stuff for the time at least, like NoFX, Bad Religion. We even had some newer bands in here like Refused and Rise Against. So, you know, stuff that I would go on later to really like and really love, but it really did turn me on to hip-hop as well. Great hip-hop mix in here, but I wanted to cover another game as well because I couldn't decide on just one. So I'm putting a lot of emphasis on punk rock in this video if you guys couldn't already tell. I'm a big punk rock fan, early punk rock fan. But this game really set the tone when it came to punk rock and Tony Hawk's Pro Skater games, and that's Tony Hawk's American Wasteland. If you look at the soundtrack for this on Google, it's all punk rock covers. So we even got some earlier punk rock artists coming in here. We got Ian MacKaye of Fugazi and Minor Threat to come and do some covers on this. Rise Against made an appearance. The Henry Rollins Band actually made an appearance on this as well. So this could go down as my favorite soundtrack as well. as far as a punk rock mix. This is all straight punk rock. There's no hip hop, no classic rock. It's all punk rock covers. So really a favorite of mine as well. But these two games have the best soundtrack in my opinion. Really turned me on to a lot of bands that I listened to today, and they are my favorites in terms of gameplay and in terms of the music. It's just totally classic. And I gotta say, guys, there is options in these games that I remember playing the earlier games as well have that, where you could turn down all the sound effects and just listen to the music. And I found myself doing that a lot growing up, and I still actually do that to this day because these games both have kick-ass soundtracks. The rest of the Tony Hawk games have kick-ass soundtracks, and I mean, if you haven't played the Tony Hawk games, go and pick up a copy of any one of the games in the series, and trust me, you won't be disappointed. But there you have it, guys. There's my pick for the best Tony Hawk's Pro Skater soundtrack. Thanks for watching.
So I've played every Tony Hawk game there is because I grew up with that series. You know, I was big into skateboarding. I still push the wood from time to time, but the Tony Hawk games always resonated with me. I loved them, and the soundtracks were super important. You know, they had some of the best soundtracks, and while, you know, some of the games introduced me to artists that I wasn't familiar with, like Gang Starr and Tony Hawk 2, AFI and Tony Hawk 3, I'd probably have to say my favorite soundtrack was Tony Hawk Underground, specifically for two songs, because it introduced me to two bands that I really grew to love. The first song would be Rise Against, Like the Angels. I really love that song. I never heard of Rise Against previous to that. And it's a really good song, you know. It's sort of a, you know, pop punk mixed with hardcore with the stylist of the vocalist. So super good song, super great band, and I was really happy that that game had that sound, that track on it. And then you have Embody the Invisible by In Flames, which was just, I've always been kind of a metalhead, and I had never heard, you know, Swedish metal, and that really introduced me to that whole genre and then subsequent subgenres of that. That song is so good, and I love In Flames. Their old work, their new work, it's all really good to me, and I'm a huge In Flames fan now. So I would have never, you know, discovered those bands if it wasn't for the Tony Hawk games. So Tony Hawk soundtracks have always been awesome, but I'd probably have to give the nod to Underground just for introducing me to those two songs, those two bands that really ended up, you know, influencing what sort of music I listened to as an adult. So yeah.
So it's really great to hear how each of these soundtracks, you know, either inspired someone's music taste, had a personal connection with, or showed them new artists. So for me, it was pretty hard to pick. I wanted to go with Tony Hawk 1 because they have Goldfinger, Suicidal Tendencies, as well as the Dead Kennedys. I almost went with Tony Hawk 2 because everyone knows it for Lagwag and Millencolin, Power Man 5000, and Bad Religion. But I had to go with Tony Hawk 3. For me personally, CKY, AFI, those were some of my favorite bands growing up. They also had Body Jar, the Ramones, and the Adolescents, which are some of my favorite bands out there. Not only that, but this game definitely had a new type of skateboarding feel to it. But the soundtrack alone, it just varied. It had some hip-hop artists, had some good punk, and some good classic punk as well. So I want to say thanks again to Tyler, Ryan, Dan, and Sean for being a part of this video. And if you want to make a response to this video as well, please feel free to tag me in it, and I'll post it on my Facebook page so everyone can check it out. But if you guys like this video, give it a thumbs up and check out the other creators as well. In the comments below, let me know which Tony Hawk game had the best soundtrack in your opinion. If you haven't subscribed yet, definitely do that so you can check out future content. But as always, thank you guys so much for watching and have a great week hunting.